Thank you for joining tonight. I'm Tracy Carluccio. I'm Deputy Director of Delaware Riverkeeper Network, and I'm here with Karen Feridun, who is going to be our teacher and coach tonight, bringing us up to date on using Twitter and also using Instagram in our activist work. So we're really thrilled to have Karen tonight and really happy that everybody could join. So I'm going to just go through the agenda with you so you know how we're going to proceed. First, I'm going to give a very brief background about this project. And I think a lot of people have already attended other workshops and teach-ins and webinars on this, so we're not going to repeat all of that. I'm just going to very briefly go through it with a couple slides. And then Karen will take over and go through the Twitter training or brush up coaching, and then the Instagram. And then we're going to go to Q&A because we really think a lot of this will be absorbed once everybody can ask questions if you're missing something. Now, as we go along, if I'm talking too fast or if Karen's talking too fast or you have a question, please put it in the chat box for now. And that way, Delaware Riverkeeper Network's social media person and our IT guru, Peter Tran, who is monitoring and helping us tonight, will be able to notice what's in the chat and let us know. Also, we're posting links in the chat, so for more information, so another reason we don't need to go into a lot of detail about this horrendous project tonight, but there's a lot of information at the links where you can learn more. So first, we're going to begin out then with me sharing my screen. All right, so this is our presentation tonight is really how to use social media, as I said, for our week of action, which will be kicking off next week. So very quickly, the Gibbstown LNG Export Terminal is proposed for Gibbstown, New Jersey and Gloucester County on the Delaware River, but it's really a big project with a lot of pieces to it. And it has a giant footprint that goes all the way from up where you see that, that sort of factory looking thing at the top in Wyalusing Township in Bradford County, Pennsylvania, where the company New Fortress Energy plans to build a liquefaction plant. They've already cleared the land for that. It's not built yet, it's on hold. And they need to frack a whole lot more wells in order to be able to give the feedstock or the shale gas to this plant. Then they would, so that whole region up there would be tremendously impacted by this project by inducing fracking and building this liquefaction plant. Then it would travel by truck or by train and would travel all the way down about 200 miles through Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and it coursing through communities, many of them communities that are already overburdened by environmental injustices. But as it goes all the way down to the Delaware River, it would then cross right through Philadelphia and enter into New Jersey in Pennsauken, which is just above Camden, and then travel down to the Gibbstown site on the Delaware River. And that site is about 2 miles from the Philadelphia airport. It's a little more than 2 miles from Chester, Pennsylvania, if you know where that is, an environmental justice community. And it backs right up to the backyards of Gibbstown, which is the little community that it's being built right on top of. The fracking that would be caused, as I said, is one of the big pieces of the tentacles of this project. This is the site and how they destroyed everything that was naturally there on the beautiful Susquehanna River where they want to build the liquefaction plant. This is what the trucks look like, and this is what the trains look like. They got a special permit that lifted the ban on traveling or transporting LNG by rail from the Trump administration in order to be able to use these 50-year-old design tank cars and carry them up to 100 car trains per day to this plant from Wyalusing. The trucks would be between 300 and 400 LNG trucks per day, plus trucks carrying liquefied hazardous gases or natural gas liquids. And just to give you a quick picture, here's the map again. You can see it a little better. it shows the rail route. It also that's most likely to be used, and then the one on the right, the one that could be used, it's a little bit different when it hits the Philadelphia region. But you can see the span of this project and how many communities and how many areas are to be would be impacted by this project. And we had to guess what this is, but we used very educated guesses with experts and transportation specialists in order to figure out what the route would probably be. And the special permit for the rail restricts them only to go between Wyalusing and Gibbstown, and these are the most direct ways to get there. The trucks would go basically down 476, then would go around Philadelphia. It goes on rural roads up by Wyalusing, very narrow rural roads and through little teeny towns. And then it comes down to these ships that would be waiting at the dock. This is the site of the Gibbstown facility. You can see it's right across from Chester. Philadelphia is about 15-minute drive upstream, upriver. And that site there where the X is the Gibbstown Logistics Center. There is one dock there now for export, but not for liquefied natural gas, and it's not operating yet. This would expand the operations there, would potentially triple the activity of export and transport into the site from what is already approved there, because it would add a second dock called Dock 2, which is what we're fighting here, that would allow the liquefied natural gas to be sent overseas. Two of the places that it's supposed to go to, their biggest prospects are Ireland and Puerto Rico, and both of those destinations are fighting the import of liquefied natural gas. Terminals there are being built or want to be built by the same company, New Fortress Energy, a very aggressive energy company that is really out to line their own pockets, the public be damned. So I just quickly want to say that there's a lot of hazards to LNG, and so we understand it's different than anything else that's being carried now on our highways or our roads. Once it's released, it can't be controlled because when it hits the atmosphere, it turns from a liquid into a vapor. It is super cooled down to minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. So when it comes out, it's so cold, it actually robs the oxygen from the air, and anybody within about a quarter mile can be asphyxiated from having no oxygen in the air, and they can receive freeze burns that are deadly. So you actually have deaths for those who are very close by. And also it expands 600 times the volume of when it's a liquid. So that means you look at one truck and you think that's not so bad. Think about one truck equaling 600 trucks when it's in a gaseous state. So not only does the cold vapor kill, but it can ignite. And if it reaches an ignition source, the fire is so hot, the guidance from the fire guidance document that the United States used says you must just let it burn out, and you try to evaporate as it evaporates. And everybody needs to be just moved out of harm's way. But of course, that can't happen if you're in the middle of the city, because this is an instantaneous kind of reaction once it hits the atmosphere. Also, it can explode, and even without an ignition source. And it has so much power in it because it's been reduced down to 600 times that it has the force of a thermobaric bomb. And that's why they call them bomb trains, and that's why they call them bomb trucks. And that's why they call the ships floating bombs. And there's a lot of other secrecy and problems associated with this. We won't go into it right now, but basically here's a tank car 1 exploding, and on the right is 2 trucks that are exploding. And then this is the ships. They're enormous. These ships are so large that the calculations show that the force, if everything in that ship were to explode, equals about 69 Hiroshima atomic bombs. Not that it's the same as a nuclear bomb, but it has the same force as that. It takes about 22 rail cars to equal the force of a Hiroshima bomb as well. So, as we move forward in fighting this project, a lot of people are very concerned too, because not only does it spur fracking and all the horrendous impacts that has on communities and on the environment, but it also releases methane. And we know that this is the most powerful greenhouse gas in heating the atmosphere in a 20-year time frame, and we need to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 45% by 2035, according to the IPCC, if we're going to get any handle at all on runaway climate catastrophe. So whether or not the DRBC makes a decision coming up, the reason that we're giving this tonight is because in September, they voted, the Delaware River Basin Commission voted to delay the approval that had been recommended by a hearing officer who had overseen the hearing that resulted from Delaware Riverkeeper Network appealing the approval that was originally given in 2019 by that agency for this Gov't LNG export. And as a result of them delaying the vote in September, they also put a stay in place. That is, they prohibited construction from beginning. There had been no construction of Dock 2 because in-water work in the area around this facility was prohibited by the Army Corps of Engineers during a window of time when the Atlantic sturgeon and the short-nosed sturgeon are particularly vulnerable. That's from March 15th to September 15th. So they could, and we fought for this prohibition in order to protect the sturgeon. We believe that the sturgeon should be protected by no project at all, but that is the reason that they had not begun construction yet, even though they got the approval from Delaware River Basin Commission, which is the penultimate permit. And so when they put that off, they said they needed more time to go through the voluminous record that had been produced by this administrative appeal process that Delaware Riverkeeper Network had brought. And as a result of that, it was punted basically into the next business meeting of the Delaware River Basin Commission. So that is on December 9th. And that's why we're having the week of action from November 30th to December 4th, the week leading up to the December 9th, Wednesday of that week meeting. Each day, Karen is going to be explaining the week of action, and it is all designed for one thing: to tell the Delaware River Basin commissioners to vote no on the approval of the project. The commissioners are the governors of the 4 states that flow to the Delaware River. That's New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And a representative of the federal government, at this time the Trump administration, the Army Corps of Engineers. It only takes a majority vote to stop this project. And when the vote came up to delay it in September, Governor Wolf abstained. Governor Murphy voted yes to delay it and to put a stay in place. The governor of New York, Governor Cuomo, is the one that made the motion to put it on hold. And then from Delaware, Governor Carney also voted yes to put it on hold. And the federal representative from the Army Corps voted no. But we just need 3 votes. So we are telling every governor that we want them to vote no so we can get a majority to stop this project. There have been other permits that are given for this project, like the Army Corps of Engineers, New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Delaware Riverkeeper Network has appealed both of those as well. There are other actions going on to try to stop this project through other means. But the most important permit, and the one permit they cannot move anywhere without, is the Delaware River Basin Commission approval. Governor Murphy is the most important vote in this. So if you're from New Jersey, you'll notice that Governor Murphy is being targeted many times in the week of action toolkits that Karen is going to explain. And that's because the project is in New Jersey. And traditionally, the Delaware River Basin commissioners, the governors of the 4 states and the Army Corps, kind of defer to the state that has the project within it. And that's what they've done here. We also think that Governor Murphy supports this project and that some of the other states may not. So we really are trying to focus on Governor Murphy, but in a big way, but every governor needs to hear, because we need every governor that we can possibly get to vote no. So that's the setup. If you have further questions, Peter is putting into the chat links to various documents that can help you. Maps, we have an interactive map. We have a lot of materials that can help you get up to speed if you want to look more deeply into this. We have other campaigns that we're doing associated with this. Municipal, local governments are passing resolutions against this in order to fight the transport over land and also by ship. So that's going on in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. We have letters being signed by federal and state representatives, elected representatives. We have a lot of different efforts, including a petition campaign ongoing. And Karen's going to get into that detail in terms of what we're emphasizing during the upcoming 5-day week of action. So I'm going to turn it over to her now and stop the sharing of my screen. So Karen, I hope you can get yours up while mine goes off.
Great, thank you so much. So thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here tonight, even though I don't sound it, but I have done lots of trainings on social media and things in the past. If you've been in any of my trainings, this isn't that. This is really scaled down just so you know how to participate in the week of action. So we have this week of action coming up, as Tracy already said. And like I said, it's not an involved training because I really want to go through a lot of information quickly. If you have the document in front of you, in other words, you can see my screen. You can see that on the left-hand side, there's basically a table of contents. And so it's a very long document. It's going to get longer. So you don't have to scroll through the whole thing. You can go to the relevant section, like on the, when we're doing the week of, I'm so sorry. When we're doing the week of action, you can go to the day of action. You don't have to scroll through everything to get there. All right. I hope that's the end of the coughing, and I apologize. So, but I want to start at the beginning of the document. And if you don't have this in front of you, we'll make sure you all have the link, before the week begins. So you'll see that the document opens with 9 for the 9th. And those are basically the reasons that Tracy was just going through for why this is a bad idea. There are far more than 9 reasons why it's a bad idea. You might have reasons of your own. And in fact, if you have stories of your own that you would like to share about how close it is to your property or something like that, by all means, you can be participating in the week of action, working off of, the things that matter most to you. But if you want to be able to rely on some of the important facts, some of the salient points against this project, 9 for the 9th is all set up for you to just draw from. And the significance of the 9th, other than the meeting is on the 9th, but the reason why we have 9 reasons is because when we do a social media campaign on Tuesday using Twitter, we're going to put different tweets by subject up for the hour, every hour of the day. So one of the reasons will be focused on for the first hour, then we'll go to the second reason and focus on that for the second hour, and so forth. Far more than 9 reasons, like I said, but those are good reasons to be using over the course of the day if it's helpful for you to have some material to work from. Next in the document are the targets. And we have all of the information gathered together in this one section, if that's easy for you to access. If it's better for you to go day by day and look for the relevant parts of their contact information for the action of the day, we have it included in the daily actions as well. But if you want everything all in one place, these are the targets and here's all their information in one spot. Next area of the document is the daily calendar of actions. And that's what we will be spending most of the time on. And so, like I said, you can see here, like we have Governor Phil Murphy's fax number. You can see that at the top of the screen. The first day of the calendar of actions is a call-in day. Now, typically a call-in day would mean that we would all get on a phone and call into the governor's offices or to the Army Corps of Engineers to tell them to vote no. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has caused governors to turn off their phones. And so I think at this point, we've been checking. One of the other things that the team working on this has been doing is, validating all the information that we have. And so people have been checking into whether or not their governor's phone line works. The only one who works right now is Governor Cuomo. And so everybody else needs to be contacted a different way, namely through fax. Now, fax is kind of arcane, so you're thinking, who has a fax machine to be able to participate in a day like this anymore? And it's true. A lot of people don't really use faxing anymore. And so the beauty of that, honestly, as an organizer, is that nobody else uses it. So when we use faxing, which I do all the time, I know I'm like the only game in town. I'm the only person sitting out in their fax machine or in their fax bin of an email if it gets converted into email for them. But you know, it's one way to actually get their attention because nobody's competing with you. So even if it wasn't COVID, it's never a bad idea to do faxing in my view. But you know, to the point that a lot of people don't have fax machines any longer. So how do you even participate in a faxing day? Well, there's a great website that makes it easy called faxzero.com. And so what they've done over the past 4 years or so, for some reason, they've provided information for government contacts that you can fax for free. And so you can fax, you know, members of Congress, and you can fax your governors. And so the link here in the document is the one that takes you right to the page of all the governors who, you know, have fax numbers that you can fax. And I checked, and all of our governors do. And so you can just run down the list and fax at them all day long if you'd like to. Again, it's free. So the beauty of going to faxzero.com is that you can, when you've clicked on your governor's name that you would like to fax him, it's going to pop up the window that you would normally have to fill in, but it's already filled out for you. So the numbers here for all the governors, if you were to scroll down, you don't really need it. We actually have all of the information built into FactZero thanks to their tool. And so all you need to do when you click on your governor's name is fill in your side of the form saying who you are, what your what your email address is. And then it gives you the option to upload a document. And so you really don't even need to do that. If you do want to write a letter to them and put it in some sort of format that you want to attach to the fax, you can do that. It needs to be pretty short. I think they only allow 3 pages, including the cover page, to be sent for free. But you can certainly attach a short letter if you want to, but you don't even need to do that. I mean, the idea of this week of action is to get as much volume, as much traffic as we can get into these offices. It doesn't need to be terribly involved. So if you don't have a lot of time, and we know everybody's busy, you don't actually have to write anything terribly long. You could put your entire message into the cover window, which is the cover page of the fax, and just hit send. The system will prompt you to find out if that's what you meant to do, and you can say, I didn't mean to attach any documents, and just hit send again. It'll then send you an email asking you to confirm that it's you trying to do this. And so you'll just hit the link that they send you, and then it's sent. It'll send you a success email or a failure email. I've been using this for a long time. I've hardly ever had anything fail unless I was sending something incredibly long or something. So chances are it'll succeed on the first try, and you can move on to fax the other governors. If you are not a constituent of Governor Murphy's and you have time to fax more than one governor, fax him second. So we're trying to make sure he gets the most attention that day. So everything that we do over the course of the week, if you have time to reach out to 2 governors, reach out to your own, and then Governor Murphy. But you can do all 4. That would be extra special. That would be great. So that's how it's done. And it's pretty simple. Like I said, very self-explanatory when you get to faxzero.com. So that's Monday's call-in day. And we want as much information as we can get throughout the week with every one of these days about, how many people are participating. And I'm going to jump past Tuesday to talk about Wednesday's snail mail, because I'm going to talk about Twitter, which is Tuesday, and Instagram, which is Thursday, separately, since it's more involved. I'm just going through the non-social media days. But for every one of these days, I was just saying that we would love to capture as many figures as we can about how many calls got generated, how many faxes got sent, how many snail mails were sent, and on and on and on. So at the end of the week, when we have the incredibly powerful petition because we've already got a lot of signatures on that. We can add to it by saying people did a lot more than sign a petition. People are really saying no to this. They're, they're speaking out in every way that they can. And one of the reasons why that's so important is because right now, if this was happening any other time, we would have a major in-person action happening at the DRBC, and we can't. And in fact, you can't go to the governor's offices these days. So whatever we can do using the other tools available to us is the best we can do. And so the best way to make the most of that is to do a lot of it, to really flood their phone lines, to gum up their fax machines, gum up their email accounts and all of that, but also to demonstrate by having the numbers, having ballpark numbers at the end of the week about how many people we were able to to work with over the course of the week, because there's that much opposition. So anytime you get an opportunity to tell us that you sent a fax or you send an email, please keep us informed, keep us in the loop about what you're up to. And you can do that on the Facebook event page, or you can email us to let us know, and they'll give us a good sense by the end of the week how well we've done. And so Wednesday is snail mail day. So, of course, on snail mail day, that means that you're going to send them a letter or a postcard, or if you have a young artist in your family who wants to do a drawing, or if you have photos of your favorite places on the Delaware River Basin, you can send all of those by mail to our targets. The alternative to that, because it takes a while for mail to get there, is to send an email. We would actually ask you if you can to do both. The idea is that mail that you send on Wednesday is obviously not going to get to their offices for a few days, but that means next week, the week after, when we're leading up to the meeting, they'll still be getting stuff after the week of action. So it's a way to, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And so if you can send email, snail mail on Wednesday and then follow it up with an email, that would be ideal. Your email could simply say, hey, check your mail, I sent you something. I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot. Again, it needs to be a contact to say, we want you to vote no, and here we're reaching out to you every way we can. There's a sample letter here if you just want to copy and paste it. The best way to email the governors these days is to go to their websites. And I'm trying to see if I can hit the scroll bar for the document itself over here. I can, okay. So here's a sample letter you can copy and paste into their websites, where they all have like a form on their websites for contacting them. There may be character limitations on some of their forms. If there are, eliminate a couple of paragraphs. It's more important that you communicate with them or send them a short note of your own. And then are all the addresses, including the links to the email forms for snail mail day. So we hope that you'll participate in that. And then Friday, I'm hopping once again, because that's the big day when we're going to be doing the petition delivery. And you see some notes in red here that we're making to ourselves about things where we want to be adding more information. So this is very much a living document. We're going to be having lots more stuff in here by the time it's time to start using it next week. But Friday is the petition delivery. I think last time there's something like 70,000 signatures on the petition, and we're recirculating it and getting even more, which will show opposition is growing. And that's, again, the value. I hate to be too obsessed with numbers, but when you can show that it's, the anger is growing, the opposition is growing, our numbers are growing, it makes an impact on them. So petition delivery will be that day, and that's the same day we'd like to be able to tally up what kind of participation we had. And so I'm going to backtrack now to Tuesday, which is our Twitter storm day. And this is more of like a quick review of how you can get involved in Twitter storm if you're a casual user of Twitter. So if you're really comfortable on Twitter and you're on there all the time, a lot of this, won't be necessary for you. I lost track there. I'll just go back to our handy thing. Okay, so if you're a very seasoned Twitter user, again, you won't need a lot of this information. What you'll need is the targets and the hashtags for the day. And so we put that at the top of the document here. And so here are the handles for each of our targets, the governors and the Army Corps of Engineers from the North Atlantic Division. You'll see in front of the targets addresses are as a period, and that's always that filter tripper that we put into our tweets, so that the most people will view the tweets that we're posting to these targets. A few years ago, Twitter put in place a filter that presumed so that they could cut down on the noise going on right in the feed. They assumed that you wouldn't want to see tweets that I'm writing to somebody I know unless you know both of us. And so there's this filter. As soon as Twitter sees the @ sign, the algorithm very quickly looks to see who knows whom and doesn't let everybody in the world see the ones that where I might just be writing to Tracy and you don't know Tracy. We want to, get past that, because obviously the governors might know me, but they don't like me. And so we're not like friends on Twitter or anything. And so I want you to see what I'm writing to the governors, and I want you to jump in and comment too. And so that little period, it can be any character, but a period is pretty, easy to, not take up too much space, and it's, easy to kind of not see. But that little period is all it takes to, to override the filter. So that's why it's there. And then farther down on the list, right after the targets, are the hashtags of the day. So it's always good to have a unique hashtag, and that way, we can isolate the ones that were generated that day. We know exactly what we tweeted, and it's easy when we're directing people, as I will be in a minute, to go retweet things. This is the one that you search to go find tweets that you can retweet to help us, get them seen by a larger and larger audience. So DRBC no LNG is the official hashtag for the day. And then following that are some ones that are discoverable, meaning that lots of people use these other hashtags and lots of people look at them. They'll spot something using some of the hashtags that are important to them. And so somebody who might not be aware of the fact that we're even having a week of action might discover that we are by virtue of seeing a hashtag that they're familiar with. And that will bring even more people into our actions. So that's the idea of having two different kinds of hashtags, an official unique one, and then others that are discoverable. So if you're real familiar with Twitter, that's all you really need to listen to. You can stop paying attention for a few minutes until we get to Instagram. But for those of you who are not that familiar with Twitter, who maybe got an account, maybe because I made you a few years ago, I did that to a lot of people, maybe never ever use it. We've made it as easy as we can for you to participate. And so you have an account, you really don't use it, you really don't maybe even know why you have an account. This is for you. Click to tweet. Click to tweet means that, gosh, I keep on going too far. And my picture's in the way of scrolling the other direction. Hang on. There we go. Now I can drive. So click to tweet is something that is designed so that you don't even need to go to Twitter. If you're a Twitter user, you have an account. All you need to do is come to this document and click on that link to click at, to Governor Murphy or to Governor Cuomo. Click on these links that are associated with the governor's names, and a window from Twitter will pop up with a tweet already written in it, and then you hit tweet, and it's that simple. So you don't have to really even go to Twitter yourself. The only thing I would advise is that to save your own frustration, the day of the action is to maybe in advance of Tuesday when we're doing our Twitter storm, make sure you're logged in case you have to reset your password or something because you forgot. If it can't identify an account on your computer, it'll ask, for you to log in. So you can spare yourself the frustration by doing that over the weekend or something, but to make sure you're on Twitter, and when you click that, it'll be as simple as a couple of clicks, once to get to Twitter and once to send it. If you're not as Twitter phobic, or if you like Twitter a little bit more and you really want to get onto Twitter and do something, the next best thing you can do that's really simple is to retweet. And so what you see here are these sample tweets. We'll be using them in different ways. So I mentioned earlier that we have the 9 for the 9th. This is where we started employing those. So we have these 9 hours really of tweets that we'll be sending. And for each hour, each of the tweets is addressed to each of the governors. And so we'll be loading up all of those, and I'll give you stuff to retweet when you get to Twitter. So when you get to Twitter, all you have to do is search on that main unique hashtag, DRBC no LNG, which is incorporated in every single thing that we're doing. And we ask that everybody use it so that we can find each other and find things to retweet. So DRBC no LNG is what you search when you get to Twitter. And then when you get the results page, it shows you that there are a bunch of tweets using that hashtag. Just go down the list and retweet them. And if you're not familiar with what retweet looks like any longer, there are symbols underneath each tweet. One of them allows you to make a comment, the first one. The third one is a little heart sign that's basically like, as on Facebook like. But the one in between looks like a little square made of two arrows following one another. And that's the symbol that you click to retweet something. And so click on that. It'll pull up the window with the tweet that you're retweeting with a box above it to allow you to add a comment to it if you'd like to. You don't have to, but if you'd like to add a comment, you can. And then all you have to do is click tweet and it'll send it. So once again, you'll be adding to the volume of all the tweets that we're generating that day by simply retweeting. It's actually a great way to help. If you want to do more than that, you can actually take these very tweets, copy and paste them, and tweet them yourself. So if you want to, at 8 a.m. get on here and copy these tweets and go over to Twitter and paste them into a tweet box, you can do that. The other thing that you can do with these tweets is use them as a template. So if you're comfortable writing tweets, all you have to do is copy one of these, paste it over in Twitter, and then get rid of the middle part. So, leave the governor's name there who you're trying to tweet, leave the hashtags at the end, but eliminate the stuff in the middle and write your own tweet. And that way you don't have to remember the hashtags. You don't have to come back to the document looking for anything. It's all right there. So that's another simple way that you can get involved with our Twitter storm. If you're not interested in trying to write your own tweets, but if you are, please, again, go for it, especially if you have, your own points that you want to make, if you have your own photos that you want to share. We're going to actually have some photos. I think we might already have one at the bottom of the list, but we're going to have some more. So if you'd like to add a photo to your tweet, you'll be able to look at the bottom of the document where we have lots of, additional media. But again, that has everything to do with your comfort level about, how you get this stuff moved around, how you know how to save it to your phone and things like that, as you'll see in a moment with Instagram. Some of these things are a little harder to do. So at minimum, you can do everything I just described without having to get, terribly complicated and not to know too much about Twitter. But if you'd like to do more, if you know what you're doing, you're comfortable doing it, please, the more the merrier. They'll give us more to share or more to retweet. And like I just said, Instagram is next. And as I was saying, again, it's a degree of difficulty thing for a lot of people. How many people here use Instagram? Does anybody on here use Instagram already? I'm just running through the names at the bottom of the screen. I just see a couple of people. So if you're a seasoned Instagram user, that's great. And you know probably how to use it better than anybody and better than I can describe. I'm going to presume that you don't know that much about Instagram because we've tried to make it really simple for you. And I'm going to put up some different slides in a second, but I just wanted to show you in this document that the targets are exactly the same. They use exactly the same names that they use on Twitter. It was capitalized on Twitter. It's all lowercase here, but it's exactly the same in every case. And the hashtags are the same for the entire week. And so everything we do where we're using a hashtag, these are the ones to use, especially DRBC no LNG. So now I'm going to try to share a different of my screens. And here is a few quick slides I made to show you to show you Instagram.
While Karen's looking that up, I just want to make clear, this entire document is embedded in the Week of Action Facebook event. We're just adding more to it, so it'll be filled out, I think, by tomorrow, right, Karen?
I suspect it might be added to a little bit over the next few days because we might get new information. You might want to talk about people signing up. That was one of the things we might add in case DRBC opens it up.
Right, but what we have now, I think we're going to make live as a Google Doc in the Week of Action in the next day or two.
Yes, oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, we're just showing it to you now because we're loading in more images and that kind of thing. So when you go to the Facebook link, which Peter put up in the chat, there will, all of this entire document,
Well, I see it now.
will be available. Okay. And that way you can go into the document and click on these various addresses. It'll all be handy for you. And also each day will be highlighted. And as each day comes, only the toolkit for that day will show up. So you won't have to scroll through everything.
I see it now.
Yeah,
Great.
we see it all now. Thank you, Karen.
So I hope you can all see this. When you first go to Instagram, if you're not that familiar with it, or if you're willing to sign up for it to give it a shot, again, we're trying to make it very easy for you. So this is just a quick tour of what it looks like. So when you get to Instagram, that first thing you're seeing from Bernie Sanders happened to be the post that was up when I got to Instagram to make these slides, but happens to be about COVID-19, but there'll be something there. It'll be some content that somebody else has put onto Instagram. So that's what you'll see when you first get there. If you're really familiar with Instagram, you know what you're doing. You don't probably need me to tell you this, but at the very top next to Instagram is the box with a cross in it, and that's what you click on to share a photo. One of the reasons why I was saying before about, some of this degree of difficulty stuff might be more than you want to take on is because unlike Twitter, which is browser based and available on as an app, Instagram really functions as an app. It's something that you use on devices. It's not something you use on your desktop. And so you need to be able to have photos on your phone or on your iPad or whatever you've got, and then you've got to be able to upload those things, and so that might be too much. But if you know what you're doing on Instagram, you already know what that cross means. You click on it, you get to basically a slide that shows all of your photo library. You can pick out the picture you want to share. You click on next. It lets you filter the thing, it lets you edit it a little bit if you want to. And then the next screen allows you to add a caption, maybe add tags to the photo, like you could add the tags of the governors to the photo, and then hit, send. So that's, it's very simple. If you use Instagram, it's just a few very self-evident steps. But if you're really not that comfortable, for instance, you don't want to figure out how to get photos from your computer to your phone, or you can use our content. We're going to put lots of stuff on Instagram, and so the way you share that is what I'm going to show you now. And so at the bottom of the screen, there's the little home sign, meaning that you're on the home screen, and then right next to it is the search, the magnifying glass. And so you click on that, and that's what I did on the right. I typed in DRBC no LNG, and it says no results found, and that's because we're not going to be using it until next week. And so I tried a different hashtag so I could show you a live example. So I went back and I did no LNG. You can see that hashtag at the top. And what you see then is all of the Instagram images that have been posted using no LNG as a hashtag. And so I just picked the first one, comes from Ceding Sovereignty. They have lots of really clever ones and really colorful graphics that they've posted, but I just picked this first one as an example. And now this is the one that I want to share. So on our day, you would be looking at DRBC no LNG, you would see something that we've posted and you want to share it. Well, you would go down to right under the image where you see the three symbols. So the heart is that you like it, the quote sign is that you want to comment. The next one is that you want to share it. And that's the one you want to pick for sharing. So we get the most visibility. And so once you click share, it says add post to your story. And so that's the one I selected. You could go then to the next screen and look at the top, and you see there's like a little smiley face in a box with an upturned corner. And that's what you click on if you want to take a couple of extra steps. So I'll show you what you can do with that. Click on that face and it'll pull up this screen. And so there are different things you can do on the screen. One is to add a hashtag. Well, you could add our hashtag right to the image, like you see there on the right. I've added DRBC no LNG. The other thing that you can do is add a mention, which means that you're adding the governor's names, our target's names. And so that's where you can do that. You can go down to the, it'll pop up a search window so you can start typing in who you'd like to mention. You start typing in the governor's names, and as it happens on my screen, you can see 3 of them right off the bat: Governor Wolf, Governor Murphy, and Governor Cuomo. And underneath the keyboard a little farther down is Governor Carney, but he's there too. So you could, you could tag every one of the governors. You could also add the hashtag. You can put more than one element into one of these photos, should you want to. And then you can click share your story. You click to your story. And you can skip all of this if it's easier for you. If you were going back a few steps to where you simply said that you wanted to share it without taking any of these extra steps, without clicking on that face, you could just go straight to your story and share it there. If you want to send something like to the governors, then you could click send to, and that would pull up a list like the one on the left again. And then you can see right next to Governor Wolf's name, Governor Murphy, there's a send option. So you could actually send things to them. That's not as necessary for a day like this. That's sending them a direct message. Basically, for our day of action, we want the most visibility. And so for what we're doing, just sharing it is ideal. That's what, the best way that you can help. And so, I recommend that, you start having fun with Instagram if you haven't used it. It's so different. The one drawback for people like me is that you can't put links in Instagram. And, and I'm somebody who's always trying to share, studies or articles or things that I find. And that, that's a real limitation with Instagram. But I kind of think it's a good thing, because I think there's a different way of thinking about information that should really be something we explore more in our movement as a whole, and that is telling stories. I mean, we've always kind of focused on the need to have compelling stories, and a medium like this is made for that. A platform like this is made for that, because it's not going to let us fall back to just sharing the latest article and stuff. It's all about moments in our stories and the things that we want to share about ourselves. And so I think it's a really powerful medium, like so many others, TikTok and all these other ones, Snapchat. I think these are things that we should be spending more time on. So even if you're not an Instagram user, even if you're not planning on using it that particular day of the week of action, something worth exploring for the future. If you aren't an Instagram person or aren't a Twitter person, and we're doing the week of action and you want to help out that day, don't feel like you can't participate. Do the thing that you like to do that day. So if you like sending faxes, send faxes all week if you need to. If you want to tweet all week, tweet all week. We just want you to feel comfortable doing the things that you're comfortable doing. We tried to make it as easy for you as we could, but again, if you have certain preferences of the ways you like to communicate, we're more interested in getting the most messages possible out there. So I think that's everything I wanted to say. I'm happy to answer any questions if I can, and sorry for my various technical and throat problems.
I have some questions. Can I just shout it out?
Let me
Go right ahead.
sharing.
Okay. Is there some way we can connect to the people in Ireland or Puerto Rico to kind of get us all involved in, fighting this company? Is that
Yes,
something?
we are, Agnes. Yes, we're connected with both. The folks in Ireland, we had a webinar this summer, a special one featuring the guest from the leader of the group that's fighting the New Fortress LNG Import Terminal in Ireland. It's in Shannon. And we can put into the chat, maybe you can do that, Peter, the link to the Ireland Connection webinar. And there's a lot of information in there and links to their website so you can find out more yourself. A very important ruling just came out of the European Court, which upheld the Irish court's ruling that the terminal that's planned for Shannon there has to start from scratch because the regulations have changed in order to get all of its permits again. It took them several years, multiple years to get to where they were with these permits, but Ireland had decided they didn't want LNG to be imported, and the people fought and had a change in government, and the new coalition government is actually changing how Ireland is going to generate its energy. And so they want to go to renewables, and they don't want to import and be dependent on shale gas. They think it's too dirty, and they want to fight climate change, and they don't want to have Shannon, Ireland, or there's another one that's planned for LNG import in the southern part of Ireland. They don't want that to ruin their environment and their communities. So there's a huge fight going on, and they just won a big ruling which set New Fortress Energy. Now, this is the same company that's building Gibbstown, the same company that wants to build Gibbstown and that it wants to build the Wyalusing liquefaction plant. It set them back tremendously. So it's a huge win. And we think with now the new coalition government in Ireland, they forecast that they are going to kick LNG out completely, ban it from Ireland. But
and this is just for energy production. It's not for like making plastic bottles or something like that.
It's not what they're planning to do right now with those import terminals. It's supposed to be for energy. So as far as Puerto Rico is concerned, Agnes, it's a similar situation. We also had a webinar. We had the leaders of the Puerto Rico resistance movement who are fighting LNG on as our special guest. And Peter will also post in the chat the link to that. And it was terrific as well. The people there have put together a movement to fight not only the LNG terminal, which again, it's being built it's already in place by New Fortress Energy, and they want to expand it. But they're not only fighting that, but they're also fighting PREPA, which is the Puerto Rican energy company, to change completely the focus of how they're going to get their energy, because as they say, we have a lot of sun, we're an island, we have a lot of wind, and we don't need to pay. And actually it's about 4 times, they've done analyses. If they got the LNG from New Fortress Energy, it would cost them about 4 times what it would be to get the energy from locally produced, sustainable and clean and renewable energy. So Sierra Club is one of the leaders, the Puerto Rican chapter of Sierra Club. And so we're well connected with them. And there is a community in the United States, particularly in New York City, as well as in Philadelphia. And the Philadelphia organization, Filiberecos, is basically the neighborhoods where the LNG train in Philadelphia would travel through. So they have joined with us and are very active in fighting the Gibbstown project because of this absolutely unjust a burden of having these LNG trains tracks going right through their community to bring LNG to Gibbstown to go to their Puerto Rico, where they don't want the LNG to go. It's just an unbelievable double whammy. And so they're very engaged with our coalition and are very active in fighting this. But there was also a couple of important wins recently and a new lawsuit filed by the Sierra Club and partners in Puerto Rico, which they have a lot of hope for. But of all things, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is saying to New Fortress Energy, you should have come to us in Puerto Rico before you built that terminal, because we think you're under our jurisdiction. So there's a whole lot of fights like that going on too that are complicating New Fortress Energy's grand plans for getting rich off of this. So thanks for asking about that. And yes, we think it's very important to have a connected fight. That's the only way that we are really going to win.
I just wanted to add one other thing, and that is for purposes of the actual Twitter storm, things like that. I saw Peter adding the addresses on Twitter to the groups, and I added one of the ones that I knew off the top, safety before LNG is their handle, And so when we're actually on Twitter, it's good to, when we retweet, we can address things to the groups that we know so that they see it too, and they jump in that day, and we'll certainly be encouraging them to participate. But it's good to reach out to the other groups on Twitter, and ask them to to let them know at least that it's happening.
Yeah, and they know
Well,
about the
in
week of
that
action.
vein, I have a network with the people over pipelines that I will pass through all this information to, and I'm just hoping I can simplify it enough for them to just put on my Facebook page, to do this 9 days of action. So
well, that's where the click to tweet is really good. You can actually just copy and paste that entire section. And if you go to our event page on Facebook, we'll have that all duplicated there too, so that people on Facebook will see it and do it. But that's the simplest way if they have Twitter accounts. That's why we tried to set it up so that you don't really have to know that much. There were people who only ever signed up for Twitter because I made them, I swear to God. And so, so tried to make it as easy for those people who really never use it.
Thank you.
So do we have other questions from folks? I know there were some in the chat there, and if people want to unmute themselves and ask questions, please go right ahead.
I'll ask Maples out loud in case anybody has the same question. How do I use click to tweet? Your doc has a link, CTT, click to tweet. So if I click that, is that not from my Twitter? Right, so the whole idea is that it's a really convenient thing to stick at an end of an email, or, like in your signature line, if that's where you want to put it on Facebook, put it in an email to your group. It's portable. You can take that link and put it anywhere. And as long as the user, the person seeing it, clicks on that CTT link, that's going to open up Twitter. It'll do all the work. It'll put it right into a tweet box, and all they have to do is hit tweet. So they don't have to take it to Twitter. They don't have to figure out anything. They just click on that link and it's done for them.
Wait a minute. Okay, now who's they? So I don't get it. So it's in my email and I'm sending it to a governor in my email. I don't know. I don't get it.
So you're basically tweeting at the governor who's ID'd in the tweet, because there were 4, 1 per governor, right? So so when you're tweeting at them, basically you're tagging them on Twitter so that they will see that they have been reached out to by somebody. And so basically it's just like tagging somebody on Facebook, or it's the same idea on Twitter. It has nothing to do with email or anything else. It's all within Twitter. It's just that this is a little tool that they developed, click to tweet folks developed, so that you wouldn't have to go to Twitter to do it, so that you, as somebody who's trying to encourage lots of other people to tweet, can give them something that they can do wherever they are. So if they're again on Facebook and they see the link, as long as they click on that CTT link that you're giving them, it's going to go to Twitter, open up a Twitter box, present it to the user, and they'll be able to just hit tweet from that spot, and it'll send a tweet just as if they were on Twitter. They don't have to write anything. It's written for them. All they have to do is hit tweet and it's sent.
And remember, everything that's in this Google Doc is going to be on the week of action. So right now, the week of action Facebook event, which Peter has shared the link to in the chat, is live. And you can go in and on that Facebook event right now, and a lot of information is already up there. There's also a registration for the virtual rally that we're having on November 30th at 7:30 p.m. You can register to go to that. We'll be sharing information there and also having an interactive, really fun and participatory experience. Since we can't all be together in person, we're doing the best we can with the virtual rally that night. But the whole idea is for us to have a huge volume of voices speaking to the Delaware River Basin Commission voting members who are the governors of the 4 states and the Army Corps. And we are telling them, vote no. And that's why the hashtag that we're asking that you use, the main hashtag for the day, is very simple. It's no DRBC, no LNG, no LNG, DRBC. It is basically do not approve Doc 2, which is the permit, what the name of the permit. And, you know, our whole goal here is to make it very clear that the public controversy is a huge outcry and that people care about this and people from all 4 states care about this. And these governors are elected to represent the public. And we're going to tell them how they should vote. And I think, you know, as more people have found out about this, more people have gotten involved. And that's why the commissioners delayed the vote. I mean, of course, they said they did have to take a deep dive into the voluminous documents that have been produced through the appeal. But in reality, they heard us speaking back in September. And there were 70,000 petition signatures that were submitted to them with people from all over the watershed. There were letters signed by elected officials from all around. There were municipal resolutions passed by local governments throughout the transportation routes for these trucks and trains that they want to use. And that's what we're going to be amplifying and expanding when we hand everything in on Friday, December 4th. That's why we've relaunched the petition and asked you to take a minute to do that. All of that information is in the Facebook event link. Go there and participate in the ways that are there now. And then as we fill in more images into the Google Doc over the next day or two, then that entire Google Doc will be available just by going right to that Facebook link. Please share that link. That's the other way that we can expand the number of people. And if you have a group and you want to, you know, put it on an email blast out, that's what we're asking you to do. We have a lot of folks, for instance, in our Empower New Jersey coalition, who's hosting the virtual rally on Monday night, a lot of groups that are going to be issuing their own email blast this week in order to rev people up to get involved on November 30th. Then we just go out there with a big bang.
Why do you think Murphy is prone to support this?
Well, we think that the project is in New Jersey, and it was begun actually under the Christie administration, but it has been permitted by Governor Murphy. And it's pretty clear through, you know, as I said, Delaware Riverkeeper Network is appealing that, and through all of the legal filings, it's pretty clear they're behind the project. They're defending their wrong and really inadvisable legally approval that they gave for the project. We think they made huge mistakes, and yet they're defending it. And so we believe that that Governor Murphy, because you know he's the host state for this project, he has really been behind it, and we need to convince him that the people are not behind it, and that the people are telling him what we think he should be doing. So I think a couple other people were trying to speak. Dave Pringle, were you trying to speak or ask a question?
Yeah, sorry, I was. 2 thoughts. One is I want to make it crystal clear for everybody, especially the least social media savvy, if they have specific technical questions, who should they be reaching out to is question number 1. And point number 2, Governor Murphy may or may not be the problem, but he also is the solution. And it matters how we, you know, if we phrase this as why is Murphy wrong or why does he suck, we lose. Let him be the hero.
I just put my email into the chat box. And so if you have questions about social media, I'm going to say write to me and then I'm going to cry. No, because I'm sure I left people with lots of questions about social media, but no, feel free to ask me. I'll do my best to try to answer your questions.
Great, thank you very much, Karen. Yeah, I think what Dave is saying is absolutely right. The solution here is to convince Murphy because we believe we have the votes to kill this project. And we really just need to have 3 of them. So the more you can speak to your own governor and then also to Governor Murphy, the better. And right now we're wooing them. We're not shaming them, we're wooing them. Now we are shaming the Delaware River Basin Commission staff. We think they've been very two-faced. They actually put in the agenda for the December 9th meeting in bold italics that there would be possible action taken at December 9th on this vote for whether or not to approve the docket, the permit for the project. And then in a private letter that they sent to the applicants, Delaware River Partners, who is a subsidiary of New Fortress Energy, they said that it was expected, a much more definitive sentence saying it was expected that the commissioners would be voting at this meeting. So, they say one thing to the public, another thing to the applicant in terms of how sure it is that they will actually act at this December 9th meeting. We think that is, unfortunately, a continuing lack of transparency on the part of the agency themselves. So while we have never been getting a straight story through that administrative process and through the DRBC, last time it wasn't even on the agenda, for instance, for September 9th, and yet they made a very important decision. We feel that the commissioners are all leaning towards listening because they postponed it on September 9th. So we think we have an opening here. We have a good shot. Other questions for Karen?
I just wanted to add, again, I wasn't really clear on this part of it, and but Instagram, because it's based on images and devices rather than desktops where you have images, and since we're putting images into that document, if you are interested in giving it a hand, and it's really worth it, it's really fun. I like the liveliness of Instagram. There's lots of new content all the time, and it just makes it appealing to look at. So if you want to jump in on all of that, I would recommend, just like with Twitter, when I was saying, make sure you're logged in days before to save yourself frustration. What you can do is go to the document, and if you must, email those images to yourself so you can get them off of your phone, put them in your library, save them, and then use them on Thursday of next week. Like that's a lot of steps. So that's why I was saying you might not want to do that. You might just want to do the sharing. But if you really do want to jump in, there are ways of getting the images over to you from your device. The other way is signing up for Google Drive on your phone or your, or your iPad or whatever you have, notebook. And that way you can share, you can link right into the document from your phone and get the photos right out of there. But that's why I've been kind of making that one sound like a little bit more complicated than you might want to get into.
Yeah, and one thing for Instagram, we're asking people to do, if you didn't get a chance to really read it when it was up, is for people to take photographs of themselves. And we already have one sign in there that basically says DRBC, governors vote no on LNG with the hashtag. But you can make your own, and you can download that through a printer. But you can make your own sign, like I'm against this because, I love the river, or I'm against this because fracking kills, or whatever you want to say. I'm against this because, I live next door to the facility. Whatever you want to say, and hold that up and take a selfie and send that through Instagram. So, these ideas are in the Google document, and we'll be emphasizing them each day. And there'll be a lot more images than the few that are in there now, but make your own as well. Use a photo that, like Karen said, for snail mail day too. Pretty postcard that you have of the river, right on the back of it, Governor Wolf, this is, we don't want any more fracking. We don't want any LNG export. We want to save these precious environmental resources or protect our communities, or, whatever you want to say. Just be creative, and the more the better.
A question came in, can you put video on Instagram? And you can. And actually, we have an idea coming up for a video that we'll be making with your help, we hope.
Yeah, so if you take part in the virtual rally, you'll see we're we're cooking up some way that we're all going to be superstars on Instagram, at least for a second, in order to speak our mind as individuals to our governors who are going to vote on this project. Okay, so we're kind of at the end of our time here, and I don't know that we answered sufficiently the questions. Is there anybody who has a burning question before we close up that you wrote into the chat that you'd like to ask now? Because, and I'm thank you, Karen, for being so generous to say people can actually email you and ask the questions. But if you have anything now that you want to bring up, this would be the moment. Just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, how do I find out about the different days or whatever? Karen, you're muted.
You're on mute still.
Sorry, I was trying to answer Maple's question about signing up for things. And I was, because I did say it before when I was joking, unlike now when I'm choking. But anyway, so the idea is that you sign up for Twitter, you sign up for Instagram if you want to be part of part of those actions, and you're not currently a member. But the thing that you're going to be looking to is this document that we were showing before, and you don't need to sign up for anything to get that. You don't need to be on Voices. That you mentioned Voices. It's going to be available to everybody who attended tonight, and it'll be all over Facebook and everywhere else. So you don't need to go anywhere special. It'll be mailed to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think I might just fax because I'm more lost than I was before because I'm new. I've got a Twitter account. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I go in there and it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. And I followed a couple of things, but it's not doing anything. So, Drew
In there.
showed us tweet deck. I mean, there's all kinds of fancy stuff, but I'm still trying to just be able to use it, and I'm just not there. It's not email. You're not really.
Well, maybe Karen can talk you through it, Maple.
I can see the volume is the thing, because Governor Cuomo, whoever governor, they're not checking all their tweets. Okay, let's face it. But they see these, you're hoping for volume, but they're not actually going to be reading it.
I mean, even if it wasn't so unsafe for us to all gather in public, they're hiding. That's why they're not answering their phones. That's why you can't even get near their offices. So, we have to use whatever tools we've got.
But they do have staff members that look at their tweets.
Yep. Well, that's, I have to say, and this is when I do Twitter 101 for fractivists, I have actually, not just from their staffers, I have gotten tweets from the floor of a session from legislators who say, please tell your people X, Y, why I'm voting for this or whatever. I mean, of all of them, I think elected officials pay far more attention to Twitter than almost anything else. And it's a very direct contact that you have. And yeah, I mean, literally with them, not just their staffers. And so that's why I'm always pushing Twitter, but all of it helps. And their staffers, like you said, they are paying attention to what mail comes in and all of it. So, I mean, we frequently, when we do these call-in days and things, we'll call up and say, getting a lot of calls today, and usually some staffer will tell us, that they are. So, so they pay attention to this. It matters.
Let me put it this way, technology is constantly changing, but social media has created a new world, and private communication matters a heck of a lot less than public communication. And Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Facebook is now old news, and Instagram and Twitter are better and whatever. But, decision makers, they are much more influenced by public facing than they are private facing.
Yeah, I mean, if you send an email, even if the governor opened it, even if that happened, which wouldn't happen, it's one person seeing it.
Email, but the decision, the combobulators inform the decision makers, which are part the governor and part the governor's handlers
Yeah.
of what the public's saying.
Yeah. No, all I meant was on email, it's one-on-one. When you're on Twitter, the whole world is watching.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we're
AP
forced
did a poll
we're
of
forced to because
DC staff.
they're captured by money, so they listen to, corporations, and they get lobbyists, and so now they just don't want anybody to contact them, and they're unavailable because there's so much crap. It's not like the 1960s where you could actually go see your legislator or whatever.
I think the last election just demonstrated that they care about votes. That's who we are.
And the bad guys, you know what? They're always going to have money, and they're always going to have access. That was true in the 1700s, and the 1800s, and the 1900s, and today. It's what we do about it.
Is there a place still for the traditional media, the press?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, on December 4th, when we submit the petitions and, wrap up the action week, we will be submitting, doing a press release in order to share with the mainstream press and online press. There's actually a much greater online press than there used to be, this information. And these governors, they read that too. So yes, there is. And also it amplifies what we're saying to the general public. A lot of people joined with us after our petition submission in September because they saw an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer, which then got picked up by AP and went all over Pennsylvania, New York. And that helped a lot because, they were talking about what we were doing and how, gosh, they actually postponed this vote. So yes, I think the traditional, we always include the traditional media. That's why on Friday we are going to be, having a press presentation as well.
Can we tag any certain reporters that might be sympathetic, or any news outlets that might be more likely to hear and take note of any of these other days?
That's a good point, Agnes. What about that, Karen?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's going to be a press release ready on Friday. We automatically tweet that out to reporters. I mean, more than even the politicians. I mean, I've heard it from a number of reporters I know that they would rather I reach out to them on Twitter than by email or something. That's where they live. And so during that week, yeah, if there are reporters that or we certainly have ones that we know, we'll be tweeting things at them. So that's another opportunity to retweet. If you see that I'm sending something like, say, to the columnist Will Bunch from the Philadelphia Inquirer, who writes about things like this sometimes, or Dave Hess over at Environmental Blogspot, or State Impact, or and New Jersey. I know you got bunches over there. New York, Delaware. Everybody's got their own people that they work with.
I got nobody.
Yeah, you got nobody, but you can look for the ones, where we're tweeting at people, and over the course, maybe I can add some of those to the document. But which state are you in?
I'm in New Jersey. The Trenton.
Okay.
Yes, you have plenty more than nobody.
Yeah, you do.
Well, we had Dave Levinsky, who seemed to be the only one that was interested in our stuff, and he's now working for government. So.
Well, NJ.com and the New Jersey Spotlight and WHYY, these are all they cover New Jersey,
Right.
and they do pick these up. Reporters, as you know, Agnes, they like to see activity. So I think that's a great suggestion, and maybe we can even add some reporter handles, in with some of our social media outreach.
Yeah, we can add, targets. I mean, not that they're the targets of the action, obviously, but if you want to write to, tag one, here's who good people to tag. That's good. Thanks.
Yeah, I see another question about I joined late from a Liz Peters. Will you be sharing the recording? Yes, we will. This has been recorded tonight, and Peter is going to, clean up any sort of noise, background noise or whatever, and we'll be making it available and sharing it with everybody who registered. We'll probably also put the link on the Facebook event link. Any last minute stuff from anybody? Well, this has been really great. And Karen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. Here you are sick, you're barely able to talk, and you've spent the evening with us, teaching us, coaching us, and we all greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much to Karen Feridun, the guru of Twitter and Instagram.
No, I wish I
help
wish I
a
could have
lot.
been clearer because it's really fun. I was making it sound like something from a plague, era, because that's how I sound, but it's actually fun to do all the social media stuff in addition to being helpful. So
Keeping hope alive, and remember, we shall persevere.
Yep, we
Thank
shall
you all.
persevere. Okay. Thank you, Dave. Okay, everybody. Thank you.
thank
And
you.
we'll
Happy
see you next
Thanksgiving.
week. Hope you can join the virtual rally.